my inspiration for creating this piece was inspired by some of the research that I did in my performance studies class on masculinities, particularly early on during our studies and watching this film, The Mask You Live In, and how little boys were socialized to hide their emotions, to suppress their ways of expression, and the sayings of be a man or stop crying or grow some balls, man up. Particularly, stop acting like a little girl or throwing of a girl. And the whole idea of masculinity is a rejection of everything that is feminine. That brought up a question for me in U.S. society. What does that say about the way that we are treating our women and how boys are socialized to then treat women? During the rehearsal process, I had my dancers do a lot of journaling and answering questions that I would ask, because I am coming from a point of view of society is defining masculinity by rejecting anything that's feminine. I gave them the prompts of being a blank woman in society I feel, or in society as a blank my experience has been. And a few of the questions that I've asked, could we consider maleness, femaleness of embodied experience, and how might that look? So a lot of the theories that we've read in this class, I feel like the biggest problem has been that they're not looking at the individual. They're looking at a group of people and they're lumping them all together. And so society sets boys up to disrespect women, to reject everything feminine. And then, we're shocked by the actions of men. And I think exploring performing masculinity is in the U.S., we have to consider what ideologies we're placing on the feminine. And within this piece, I do feel as though I am exploring the gender hierarchies that U.S. society partake in. The spoken word aspect of the piece was inspired because I'm used to experiencing spoken word in hip-hop culture, and I wanted to bring that aspect into the dance. And so I got connected with an amazing spoken word artist, Jessica, and she agreed to share her talents to speak the word of combination of the dancers' stories. It's interesting because as dancers we don't use our words, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily don't have anything to say. But I know for me as a creator, I like to take in other arts as well as using movement, and it's just something that I wanted to collaborate with. And one article that we read within this class, What We Know About Boys Who Dance by Doug Reisner, it appears that within dance education, young males in the West, they're constructing the idea that the limitations the hegemonic masculinity places on dance, particularly for young male dancers. And interestingly enough, they're basing the idea that dance is only for females. So in the West, boys who dance are classified as effeminate, which says nothing about dance itself or the movement that is done. It's more about how we in the West sexualize dance, and we sexualize our bodies. Taking away sight, taking away the thing that makes us judge the external appearance. And the question of what might that change for the experience of the movement. So we know that society has expectations due to external appearances. So if we're seeing women up there dancing, or before they even start to dance, we already prejudge of what the movement's gonna be and how it's going to be perceived.
tried to convince myself that sex was meaningless. I was the Wednesday night at 3 in the morning type. She who grazes strangers' skin, gone the next day. Boys? Ha! Careless, reckless with bodies. He believed that the female body is inferior. He was repulsed by my body, and for a time, so was I realized the white boy doesn't mind having sex with the brown woman. But will I ever meet his mother? I was shaking nervously when he first pulled me closer. Women of mixed race are more likely to be sexually assaulted than white females, you know. Labels, packaging, branded a slut and stamped a hoe, seems to give men this idea that I am now and forever will be his phallus property, public property. Being a woman in dance, I feel devalued. I feel betrayed. Betrayed by my feminine body, betrayed by Tess. Constantly having to show the world just how tough I am. Go ahead. Tell me how sexy I would look if I danced on you. I realize that I create beauty. My movement creates aesthetic. I dance in my body, in my skin. And as I lure your gazes in, I know I am free. I am powerful. Questions linger in the places answers should take. Societal pressures pushing me to define, choose a side, walk a fine line. Beautiful, long, thin, pink girls. Pink girls in black leotards with neat little buns on their heads. I stood at the end of the bar and I didn't see a little pink girl. I wanted to be like all the other pink girls. Being a mixed-race woman in society, I am isolated. A diversity requirement. Feels like the world has been set up with trip wires and invisible tape, unstated rules and unrealistic expectations. Too much this, not enough that. Please continue to size me up. Objectify me with your gaze. I will not be kept quiet, even if it makes you uncomfortable, especially if it makes you uncomfortable. Interrupt me one more time, I dare you. As a white woman in California, I can go most of my days forgetting. As a white woman in California, I can go most of my days forgetting how I appear to the world. Most days, most moments. My visual presentation causes no harm to me on the outside, out there, in the world. At home, however, it is as if the day I say yes will be the day they finally see me as a woman. I am not defined as a woman by the company of a man. As a woman, I reject being told that the world is just too dangerous, that I cannot take it on myself. Being a woman in society triggers urgency. Cease to conceive of my body as a visual experience. I am more. Whole, when torn apart. Failed attempts at censorship, my silence keeping me warm. Complete. Speak. I'm loving the feeling when boys ask my major and I tell them dates. Being a woman who knows struggle, I no longer suppress my emotions, my craziness, my perceived insanity. My will to thrive prevails. I won't fail, I won't comply. Free flow cruise. Being a sexualized woman, I no longer feel powerless. I know that I deserve better. I know that I am worthy of love and acceptance. I know that I am intelligent and capable. I do not always feel like a strong, courageous woman, but I know that she is there, deep inside, deep, resilient, strong, with stories to share, and a will to contribute to the future.
As far as like responses that I got from people, I think the most frequent question that I got was if the stories were ours. And I felt like that was like a little bit difficult to answer because I wasn't exactly sure if that was almost like breaking the trust of the group, because it was kind of almost like not necessarily agreed, but that it was kind of like confidential in that sense. So I usually went with a response like, oh, it's like kind of a mix, or, you know, and, you know, I didn't like flat out really say which parts were mine or if we were dancing to our own stories or not.
I've gotten to a really cool point, I think, with the piece where it's begun to feel like mine in its own way. So now it's not as challenging every time, I think, because I've like gotten to a point with it where I feel very comfortable with what I'm saying and what I'm presenting. So it's actually it's been very satisfactory to do it. Now it's like this thing that I've worked on and this thing that I've made my own and kind of owned up to. And it's been really nice, a little nerve-wracking, but it's been very nice to just get to share that. I have like moments where I'm very aware the audience is there, which are always really bizarre, because I feel like normally you're lit and then the audience can see you and you can't see them, but we've got this like other thing. It's like complete reversal of that, and I didn't think about it at all until the 2 p.m. show halfway through, when I looked up and someone was like dead looking at me, and they like, I had this moment where I saw them and I saw their reaction, but I knew they couldn't see mine, which was very interesting. And I knew I could make a funny face and they wouldn't have been able to see, like, whatever I wanted to do. And so I actually got to be very honest, which I liked, because I think some of the time when I go on stage, not that I'm lying, but especially if it's not my story, it's hard to really give it my own personal take. But with this, it's been very easy to be just kind of myself on stage.
A takeaway from this process for me would be embracing more stereotypes. And once again, going back to the idea of reclaiming those stereotypes. Free flow crazy, yeah. I don't want to be defined by being the crazy woman. I just want to be crazy.
My biggest takeaway that I am leaving with this experience, from the class to the project and working with these lovely dancers, is that power is a big play in how we interact in U.S. society. And so when we're classifying or trying to find descriptives to put on another person, it definitely comes from power, or power is an indicator of what the person's agenda is.